So the actual report is going to start on page 3. So if you'd flip there. So what this is meant to do is to show the federal employee just basically a high-level view of where he's going to be at retirement. Our case person here is fictitious, Sam Smith. So if I were talking to Sam, I might want to start in the employment section and say, well, today, Sam, you're making an annual salary of $64,393, and I've used a 3% estimated growth in your salary between now and when you retire, which is 8 years from now. And then going to the next section, the retirement section, the third section there, it shows that his annual salary at retirement would be $81,571. If you divide that by 12, that's $6,798 per month. If you jump down to section 4, your retirement annuity, Sam, will be $1,953. That's without a survivor benefit. Your annuity with the survivor would be $1,758 per month. So as you can see, that's a considerable drop in income from $6,798, what you were making in salary, but just before you retired, dropping down to $1,758. That's a drop of $5,040 from your employment income to your first annuity check. And then, Sam, if you were to pass away the first year of your retirement, your survivor would be left with $977 a month. And that's a considerable drop from $6,798 that she's used to living on with you. And the cost for that survivor benefit, Sam, is $195. Now, Sam, that's the first of 2 insurance policies that you're paying for your spouse. And you'll start paying that $195 the day that you retire. That is $195 a month. But let's go down here to the bottom of the page and look at the Federal Employees Group life insurance. And we can see today at age 48, your annual premium for your life insurance is $819 per year. But then when you retire, it jumps to $4126, which is equates to $343 a month. That's your second life insurance policy. Your first one, remember, was costing you $195 for the survivor benefit. So when you add those 2 together, that's $538 per month for your 2 life insurance policies. Then, as you can see here, Sam, at age 61, that's going to go to $63.59. So the cost for your life insurance, even though the life insurance coverage is staying the same, the cost is going up over time. Income in retirement is going to drop by $5,040. But there may be some relief here, Sam. If we look in the 5th section down, the thrift savings plan, over on the right-hand side, we see that the total savings before you start pulling money out of TSP when you retire is $290,000. So there may be some help that we're going to get from that, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute. Okay, now I'd like to go to page 4 of 37, the next page. This is the newest report page. We added this year to compare today's income. If you look at the top, it's highlighted in yellow, it says current income, and it compares the first year in retirement income. So looking at the top, we can see, as far as the monthly income is concerned from the salary, that's $5366.08. But his annuity, as we discussed on the previous page, is $1953.42. Then we can compare some of the things that he's paying for, like if you go down a ways, you can see the FEGLI on the left-hand side. But when he retires, the 2 are shown there. When you add up the $176.71 and the $167.16, that's $343. So that's a huge jump in the cost of life insurance. The health benefit is also going up. For the first time, he's starting to pay for a survivor benefit, which is shown right at the top. He's not been paying for that as an employee. So as you drop down both columns, you get to the net pay on the left, which is $1425.31 every 2 weeks, or you convert that to monthly as $3,088.18. Now on the right hand side, the net income will be $2741. Now that includes the net annuity after subtracting the total reductions just above it, the net annuity, plus Social Security, which is figured on another form, and the thrift savings plan. On the previous page, we told Sam that he was going to have a little over $290,000 in thrift savings, and we have put that into an investment, a rollover investment, that can give him $1,083 per month, and we're going to look at that little detail in a few minutes. So if you add those three sources of income, the net annuity, the Social Security, and the TSP, then he would get $2741.70 per month. That would be net income. So if you subtract the $2741 from the $3,088, that's a deficiency of $346. And we would say, well, that doesn't look too bad. You're a little bit short of income. But then we would probably talk with Sam and say that $3,000, Sam, is what you have left over every month after you paid all of these deductions from the government. This is what you have left to live on. And so I'm going to assume that that's your standard of living. And it looks like in retirement that that's going to drop to $2741, so it's going to be a decrease in $346. But Sam, you're going to retire 8 years from now, and that $2741 is not going to buy as much then as it does today. So let's drop down here and do a little deflation adjustment. It says that in order to maintain a standard of living equal to value of your current income of $3,088, you will need a net monthly income in retirement of $4,066.54. And so if you adjust that, he will actually have a shortfall of $1,324 each month in retirement to start with, and it gets worse as time goes on. So now let's flip to page 5 of 37. Page 5 adds up everything that's found in the benefits calculator in the retirement planner. It is the bottom line calculation of income, all income versus all expense. And so if we look at the little box at the top, it says there is an income shortfall. There's not enough income each year in retirement to pay for expenses. So the blue line on the graph represents all sources of income. First of all, from the government, his retirement annuity, his FERS supplement, and the thrift savings rollover that we'll talk about in a few minutes. And then the red line represents all sources of expense, retirement penalties, which Sam didn't have any, like an early retirement or the like. It also adds in the cost of the survivor benefit, the FEGLI, the health insurance, the long-term care insurance, federal and state taxes, and other sources of expense, which we're going to look at in just a minute. So as we plot this over time, we see that the blue line is consistently below the red line, and that means that there is a significant shortfall in income, which tells Sam that he really can't afford to retire unless we do some financial planning for him. And so this summarizes all of that. I'd like to flip to page 6 of 37, and we're going to start to get into a little bit of detail. On page 6, we add up the three sources of income, but you'll notice that the TSP column in the spreadsheet at the bottom is missing, and that's because we've rolled out the TSP from the government into an investment that you have recommended for him. So flipping to page 7, let's take a look at what we've done with the TSP income. We had a little over, on page 7 of 37, we had a little more than $290,000 of TSP savings at retirement. And we've rolled this into an investment that I'll show you on the next page that gives him about $1,083.33 a month to start with, and that's shown in the spreadsheet on the top line. It's also mentioned in that little box off to the right below the graph. So we put him into an investment, and we've had the investment grow at 3%. The income would grow at 3% per year, and you can see it growing over time out to age 90. Well, let's take a little bit deeper look at that TSP rollover on the next page, on page 8. And we have a little one-line spreadsheet at the top where we've taken the $290,000 in savings at retirement. We've rolled it into a rollover. We put it into an investment that can give him about 6% return each year, and then it could provide $13,000 in income each year. I took the $290,000 and I multiplied it by 4.5% to arrive at that $13,000. And then we wanted to give Sam an increase each year of COLA of about 3%. You're going to see if retirement is affordable. You would include in this spreadsheet other sources of income. For example, if he was going to work in a part-time job for a few years, you could enter that on this spreadsheet. You would enter a spouse's income at retirement. What is she making? Is she still working? Does she have any sources of income? Do they have any rental properties, or do they have any other investments, IRAs and the like? That all could be entered on this spreadsheet. Now on the next page, on page 9 of 37, it's the breakout of what happens year by year in that $290,000 rollover. So you can see in the spreadsheet the annual income goes up each year by 3%. The earnings are 6%, which is in the remaining column, and when you look on down through the years, you can see that the amount in the fund is growing. It gets up to a peak of $332,000 at age 70, but then it starts declining after that because of the COLA keeps increasing beyond a rate that you're able to keep up with it. So finally, at age 90, you're down to $119,000 left in this fund. Okay, now flipping to page 10, this adds up all monthly expense in the government, and you can see the legend there. So any penalties, which Sam doesn't have any, the survivor benefit, the FEGLI costs, the health insurance, long-term care, and taxes are all added up each year and shown in the spreadsheet down below. An interesting thing to note on this is of all of the benefits that the federal employee has to pay for, or the deductions, taxes, health insurance becomes the most costly item. Okay, now that takes care of the government expense in retirement, but let's take a look at other expense. Now, back on page 4, when we went through the inflation adjustment of what Sam would need to meet his standard of living today, we calculated that he would need $4,068.54. So we've made an entry here on the spreadsheet of $4,066.54, and we have an increase in that each year by 3.5%, and you can see how that goes up over time. Now flipping to the next page, on page 12, is the actual spreadsheet entry in the program, where we've adjusted that 4,066, we multiplied it by 12, and that equals $48,798, and that grows at a 3.5% rate, and we're going to start that when he retires and continue that on through age 90. If they actually had a budget, you could be more detailed. You wouldn't just have living expense. You could itemize the things here, like travel and groceries and car payments, house payments, whatever. That all could be listed and added up over time. So flipping to the very last part of what I wanted to talk about today on page 13, we've taken that living expense that we figured on page 4, and we've projected it on out through retirement, all his retirement years, and we see how it can increase from age 56 when he retires on out to age 90. I believe that this selection of pages helps show Sam in a very quick way, is his retirement really affordable? Can he really afford to retire? And working with a lot of you, when we get to that page 5, you can look at page 5 of 37. I haven't met with one of you yet with your clients where the blue line was above the red line. In all cases, it's always been the red line is above the blue line. And I think that's a really important thing to show to your clients, and then start your retirement planning work based on what the condition is if you don't make any adjustments, if you don't make changes to TSP savings, or if you don't work more years than you plan to work, or if you don't do something about your FEGLI or your survivor benefit. So it just opens the door to a lot of discussion.